Namaste, good morning, welcome to everybody. So, today we are going to have a brief discussion on God in the light of Sri Aurobindo's writings. Every religion permits all its devotees to pray and adore God. We know or we don't know, but actually we have a mania. So we have an intention, we have the willingness, and we have the trust that, and with that trust and the willingness, we go and pray God in different forms and different names. Now itself we are going to describe something in the writings of Sri Aurobindo. Many types of gods we feel, we take, we worship and adore in different religions: vital gods, higher gods, supramental gods, gods and goddesses, avatars. So many terms, divine, so many terms we find in the adoration, and this our exclusive opening and in our adoration. Now itself we are going to discuss some lines in the light of Sri Aurobindo, how he wants to describe in a brief discussion on God. First line, Sri Aurobindo quotes God's definition: an eternal child playing an eternal game in the eternal garden. As we know, when one kid is playing a game in the garden. So naturally, suppose a kid is playing a game in the garden. This is actually a human kid or human child. How we can convert it into the divine child or a God? So naturally, Sri Aurobindo, in that three places, one single term eternal is used by Sri Aurobindo. Like the eternal child playing an eternal game in the eternal garden. Before child, game and garden, Sri Aurobindo has put the term eternal, and this man, human child, has been converted to divine child or God. Sri Aurobindo, in the next she speaks, God is the only being. Third, God dwells not in all, not only in the believer who is conscious of him, not naturally believer or unbeliever, who is conscious or who is unconscious, but actually God dwells in all, in everywhere. The world is God fulfilled in outerness. Wherever you see, there will be God. Beauty is his footprint showing us where he has passed. So naturally we are going to next. What is our objective? What for we are here? What is the aim of all human beings? Sri Aurobindo speaks: attainment of God is the true and object of all human effort. So, object is to become God. First become God. The Divine Mother speaks, first become God, then worship God. After becoming God, you will be in a position, or we will be in a position to know what is the dividing line, where we are going, how we are worshipping, to whom we are surrendering. So she said, first become God, then worship God. Next line, our objective is that attainment of God is the true object of all human efforts. By entire human effort, what man can do is to attain. It is the attainment of God, nothing less. Next line, Sri Aurobindo speaks of God is great and cruel torturer because he loves. It is actually both sides of a single coin. God actually is a great and cruel torturer because he loves. Naturally, somebody complains, Mother, Lord, hey, oh God, actually why I am suffering? Because you are capable of suffering. Whenever Kunti was asked to get some boons, Kunti is asking, give me whatever the agonies, whatever these sorrows you give me. Why? You can ask anything you want, because you are my relative. Whatever you want, I can give you. No. Because if I will be in a position of suffering. If I suffer, if I cry, then I will remember you, I will recall you, and I will pray deep into the core, from the core of my heart. Next, God and humanity. Sri Aurobindo focuses on God and humanity. It is a miracle that men love God, but yet fail to love humanity. Actually, man has a tendency of going to the temple and worshipping God in any forms, any names, and with any purity, but fail to love the humanity. Then Sri Aurobindo asks these people, with whom are they in love then? Man possesses God. God is inside his heart, spark of the absolute, as the psychic being is better seated, but actually he is veiled there. Man itself, he is going to the temple, outside temple, external temple, in the different names of mosque, church, temple, so many things, but actually he fails to love the humanity, and he loves to go turn deep inward. Then Sri Aurobindo asks, with whom he is in love them. Next question Sri Aurobindo asks, actually, the whole world is my seraglio. Already I have told you, the world is fulfilled in outwardness, and living being, in every living being, and inanimate existence in it is the instrument of my rapture. Wherever you see, whoever you see, however you see, everything is the world is my seraglio, and everything in between, in all, I am there, all is myself, all are there. They exist in me. Then Sri Aurobindo's next message is, the next greatest rapture is to the love of God, is the love of God in man. Naturally, love of God means love of God in man. That is the next greater rapture to the love of God. There too, one has the joy of multiplicity. Now itself, it is confined. Now, this is the law of multiplicity. Joy of multiplicity is the next greatest rapture. Is the love of God. Is the love of God in man. So naturally, man is the base. To him, as he possesses mind, life, body, psychic being, everything is he possessing sublime, everything is there inside. So next rapture is the joy of union. Multiplicity is that love of God in the love of man. Then Sri Aurobindo goes one step ahead. God lives and moves and acts in us as we live and move and act in him. These are two interrelated processes. What is the relation between man and God? Sri Aurobindo writes, we are the sons of God and must be even as he. His human portion, we must grow divine. Our life is a paradox with God for key. Actually, that is the true relation between man and God, is that we are the sons of God. We are sons and he is the father. And our life is a paradox. Because our human portion, his human portion, we must grow divine. Actually, we are possessing the human body. This is actually truly his human portion, and our objective is that, our goal is that we must grow divine. But we can't get our divinity, achieve our divinity, find our divinity, because our key is lost. Life is become a paradox, and this opening key is actually lost, hidden somewhere else, kept with the inconscient. Next line, Sri Aurobindo writing. Sri Aurobindo says us, living in Krishna, you know, akarsayati iti Krishna, aradhayati iti Radha. So living in Krishna, even enmity becomes a play of love. There won't be any love, only love, no enmity, no cruelty, no jealousy, no quarrel, no strife, and the wrestling of brothers. So this Krishna is a consciousness, higher consciousness, overmind consciousness. So if we can be able to live in Krishna, then that in that consciousness, naturally what happens? The enmity becomes a play of love and a wrestling of the brothers. Next line. God and man. God leads man while he is misleading himself. It is the tendency of man to mislead himself. Whenever man is misleading oneself, God will be there to come forward and actually to lead him. For that, actually, God is taking birth, because he knows man's capacity, his thought process, his ability is limited. Naturally, he will be confused and he will be misguided by the better things here. Actually, it is existing here. So naturally, God leads man when he is misleading himself. If we can understand God, we must renounce the egoistic and ignorant human standards. Like this already I have told, this is mine. Vina Judhe Devi Nahi Sichagra Medini Aduryadhan, you know, then I won't give. This is also arrogance. This is only ego. And where is the end? He dies, nothing he achieves. So actually, we must renounce our egoistic and ignorant human standards with them, if we can be able to understand God. Because in God, there is no rivalry, there is no ego, there is no darkness. Naturally, we have to go, else ennoble and universalize them. So naturally, we have to transform them, know them. We have to get rid of them, or otherwise we have to transform them, ennoble and universalize them. Then Sri Aurobindo speaks of God is the reverse, God and the nature. God is the reverse side of nature, and nature is the obverse side of God. There is no practical difference between God and nature. Only there are two sides of a coin, obverse and a reverse side of the same coin. Then what is the relationship between God and nature? Sri Aurobindo writes, God and nature are like boy and girl at play in love. So this God and nature like a boy and a girl. They are actually playing hide and seek. So naturally, they are in play and they are in love. And nothing else. They are actually like a boy and girl. They are actually playing hide and seek before our eyes. Nothing is there. One beautiful definition comes to our eyes. Sri Aurobindo writes, 3 times God laughed at Shankar. Great Shankaracharya, you know. 3 times God laughed at Shankar. When, the number 1, when he returned to burn the corpse of his mother. It is actually made up of this khiti, this earth. Then he has to go, but actually he returned back from his sannyasa to burn the corpse of his mother. Second, when he commented on Isha Upanishad, Shankaracharya commented on the Isha Upanishad, and at that time God laughs for the second time. And the third time God laughs when he stormed about India's preaching in action. So these 3 times God laughed at Shankaracharya, great, because there was something in the thought process, there was something, a lacuna or something, a loophole. And defining the God and the truth, Sri Aurobindo speaks of God is infinity possibility. Therefore, truth is never at rest. And therefore, error is justified to her children. So naturally, God is there to take it infinity. God has infinity possible. He is justified error is justified to her children, and the truth is having never at rest. It is a progressive attitude. It has to go on. Sometimes we can see also God's failure. When really God fails, we know God often fails, not in his workings, not 1 or 2 times, often he fails. It is the sign of his illimitable Godhead, not as a failure or a lacuna. It is the sign of his illimitable Godhead. Then actually God's masks. God justifies himself in the end, even he is masked himself as a bully or a tyrant. But actually he justifies. This is only a mask. There is a purpose behind this lila. This lila is known as God's play is lila. Whenever man plays, that is a game. Whenever God plays, that is a lila. Next we are going God's temptation. If God did not take upon him the burden of tempting men, naturally, if God is not taking the burden of tempting men, the world would very soon go to the perdition. So naturally, man has to be tempted. Otherwise, he will simply sleep. In the matter, he will stay. So naturally, he has to be tempted. Then actually, Mother Sri Aurobindo, towards the end, God guides best when he tempts worst. He loves entirely when punishes cruelly. Helps perfectly when violently he opposes. Very significant sentence. God guides best when he tempts worst. Loves entirely when he punishes cruelly. Helps perfectly when violently he opposes. And today's last line is that God's wrath is our eternal advantage. So we have to know God. Thank you.